There is a peculiar heaviness that follows us through life, a weight that does not come from the burdens we carry in our hands, but from those we carry in silence. Secrets have gravity. They anchor themselves inside of us, unseen yet undeniable, pulling at our every step. And the deeper the secret, the more profound the weight. It is not the kind of heaviness that bends the body, it bends the soul. Every secret begins as a moment, a flash of truth, a raw piece of reality that the world is not ready to hold. It may be something you have done, something you have seen, or something you have come to understand. At first, you may think you can ignore it, that it will dissolve if you look away. But secrets are alive. They breathe in the silence of your thoughts. They whisper in the pauses between your words. They make themselves known not by expression, but by suppression. And with each day they remain unspoken. Their weight grows heavier, settling deeper into the marrow of your being. There is a paradox here. Secrets both weaken and strengthen. They weaken when they eat away at your honesty, forcing you to present a face to the world that is not entirely your own. They strengthen when they guard your inner sanctum, protecting the parts of you that are too fragile or too sacred to be exposed. A secret is both a poison and a medicine, both a chain and a shield. What matters is not the secret itself, but how you carry it. Some secrets belong to shame. These are the ones that gnaw at you, the ones you bury because you fear rejection, judgment, exile. They are heavy because they feed on your silence, growing like vines in the dark. And yet, within even these, there is a strange power. To bear them without breaking is to learn the art of resilience. To live with them is to confront the shadow, to wrestle with the part of yourself that society insists you must hide. Other secrets are treasures. They are not burdens of guilt, but flames of knowledge. To hold such a secret is to hold a light that others cannot yet see. Perhaps it is a truth about life, about love, about the nature of existence itself. You carry it not because you fear condemnation, but because you know the world would not understand. If revealed, it would be dismissed, mocked, diluted. And so you protect it in silence, aware that its power lies in its secrecy. This weight is different. It is not crushing, but it demands reverence. There are also secrets that are not truly ours. The whispered confessions of a friend, the hidden pain of a family, the veiled truths of society. These are weights we inherit, chosen or unchosen, and they test the strength of our loyalty. To keep another's secret is to guard a piece of their soul within your own. It is a responsibility, sometimes unfair, but always significant. In carrying it, we are asked to balance empathy with endurance, silence with compassion. The weight of secrets changes how we move through the world. It makes us cautious, deliberate, always calculating how much we can reveal without exposing too much. It teaches us to measure words, to build walls around thoughts, to smile when the heart trembles. There is an art in this concealment, but there is also a cost. For every word unspoken, there is a tension. For every truth hidden, there is a mask that must be worn. Over time, the masks become heavy, and the silence becomes deafening. Yet secrets are not only about what is hidden from others, they are also about what is revealed to ourselves. The act of keeping a secret forces you to sit with it, to wrestle with it, to see it from every angle in the privacy of your mind. In that silence, you learn who you are. You learn what you value enough to protect, what you fear enough to hide, and what you love enough to shield from the world's eyes. In this way, Secrets are mirrors. They reflect back to us the truths we might otherwise ignore. The heaviest secrets are not about events, but about identity. The quiet recognition that you are not who the world thinks you are. The awareness that beneath the life you live publicly lies another self, wilder, freer, truer. To reveal this self might shatter the expectations others hold, but to conceal it feels like suffocation. And so the weight builds, not because the secret is dark, but because it is luminous. The world fears light just as much as it fears darkness, for both disrupt the ordinary. There is no human life untouched by the burden of secrets. They shape our voices, our choices, our destinies. They live in the pause before confession, in the hesitation before truth, in the trembling silence between two people who both know but cannot say. They are the unspoken histories behind every smile, the hidden stories behind every pair of eyes. To live is to carry them. To grow is to learn which secrets to share, which to guard, and which to take with you into eternity. There is a silence that is not empty, but overflowing, a silence that carries with it the weight of unspoken truths, concealed fears, and the whispers of things too dangerous to voice. This silence is not peaceful. It is a shadow, dense and alive, haunting every corner of the human soul. It does not simply surround us in moments of stillness. It moves within us, shaping our choices, our expressions, our very identities. This is the shadow of silence, the realm where everything that cannot be spoken hides, growing larger the longer it is left unexpressed. Silence has many faces. There is the silence of reverence, the silence of peace, the silence of meditation. But the shadow of silence is different. It is born when words are withheld out of fear, fear of rejection, fear of punishment, fear of being misunderstood. It is born when the truth, sharp and inconvenient, is smothered before it can escape the lips. It is born when pain begs for expression, but the world has no ears willing to listen. And so it lingers in the shadows, unsaid yet unforgotten, cloaking itself in darkness where it cannot be reached. This silence is heavy. It seeps into the body, lodging itself in the chest, tightening the throat, pressing on the heart. It becomes a weight carried in every breath, a quiet reminder of what has been buried alive. And while others may not see it, they sense it. They notice the hesitation, the strange pauses, the eyes that turn away at certain questions. They sense the existence of something unspoken, but they cannot name it. The shadow of silence is invisible, yet it casts its presence over everything. It is within this silence that secrets multiply. What cannot be said does not vanish. It grows. It feeds on the attention denied to it, becoming more powerful the longer it is ignored. A single withheld truth can echo endlessly in the mind, demanding acknowledgement. What was once small becomes monstrous. What was once tolerable becomes unbearable. The shadow thickens with every unspoken word until silence is no longer a choice but a prison. And yet, the shadow of silence is not merely destructive. It has its own kind of power. To keep silent is sometimes to survive. To remain unspoken can be an act of defiance, a refusal to hand over your deepest self to a world that would not understand. Silence can protect. Silence can shield. Silence can transform pain into wisdom, because in the solitude of what is left unsaid, you are forced to confront it alone, without delusion, without distraction. Within the shadow, you meet the truth in its rawest form, stripped of the comfort of external validation. But this confrontation is not without cost. The shadow of silence demands a toll. It asks you to carry what others will not. It demands you become both prisoner and warden of your own truths. You build walls around your thoughts, not because you want to, but because the world has not proven itself a safe place for them. And the longer the walls stand, the more natural they feel, until silence is no longer a choice, but a habit, until it becomes your language without words. In this way, the shadow of silence shapes identity. People begin to live double lives, the life that is spoken aloud and the life that is whispered only in the mind. The spoken life pleases others, maintains appearances, and conforms to expectation. The silent life remains hidden, guarded, and solitary. This division creates a tension that never truly rests. It is the tension of being seen yet unseen, of being known yet unknown. The world embraces one version of you, while the other sits in shadow, waiting for acknowledgement that may never come. And what of the silence between people? It too has its shadow. Lovers who do not voice their pain, friends who conceal their disappointments, families that bury their wounds beneath forced smiles. The shadow of silence creeps into relationships, eroding them slowly, not with conflict, but with absence. Words that should have been spoken remain unsaid, and over time, the silence speaks louder than any confession could. It tells its own story, one of avoidance, of fear, of truths too sharp to handle. The paradox is that silence can both heal and harm. In moments of meditation, silence allows the soul to breathe, to reset, to reconnect. But in the shadow, silence suffocates. It does not allow space for expression or release. It becomes a tomb for the truths we refuse to exhume. The very thing that could have freed us becomes the thing that binds us. The shadow of silence is not something one can escape, for every human being carries it to some degree. What matters is how we hold it, how we learn to live with it. Sometimes it must be guarded, for not all truths are safe to expose. Sometimes it must be broken, for the cost of silence becomes greater than the risk of speaking. And sometimes it must simply be acknowledged, not as an enemy, but as a companion on the journey inward, a reminder that there are parts of us too deep, too sacred, or too painful to ever reach the light. There are truths in life that do not belong to the marketplace of voices, truths that cannot be scattered into the wind of conversation, truths that must be held close like a fragile flame cupped within the palms. These truths are not ordinary, they are sacred, and when they come into your possession, whether through experience, revelation, or the vulnerability of another, they form a bond deeper than words, a sacred trust. To betray this trust is not just to harm another, but to fracture the unseen covenant that binds soul to soul, human to human, spirit to spirit. The sacred trust begins with silence. It is born when someone offers you a piece of themselves that they do not share with the world. It might be a confession, a wound, a dream, or a secret they cannot risk placing in careless hands. In that moment, they are not merely giving you information, they are giving you their vulnerability. They are placing a part of themselves into your keeping, trusting that you will not tarnish it with judgment, betrayal, or exposure. The weight of this offering is profound, for once received, you cannot give it back. To hold a sacred trust is to live with a dual awareness. On one side, there is the knowledge itself, the story, the truth, the secret. On the other side, there is the responsibility, the recognition that this knowledge is not yours to wield. It belongs to another, and yet you carry it within you as though it were your own. This is why trust feels heavy. It is the fusion of another's soul with your own, creating a silent pact that neither time nor distance easily dissolves. The sacred trust is not limited to the secrets people speak aloud. It exists as well in the unspoken, in the things we intuitively know but never voice. A glance that reveals unhealed pain, a silence that reveals a broken heart, a gesture that betrays hidden longing. To see these things and to honor them without exploiting them is also an act of trust. Life continually gives us chances to handle the invisible truths of others with care, and every choice we make to protect rather than expose becomes part of the sacred bond that makes human connection possible. But the sacred trust is not only about others, it is also about ourselves. There are truths within us that must remain guarded, not because they are shameful, but because they are too sacred for the misunderstanding of others. To share them would be to reduce them, to allow their purity to be handled by hands not ready for them. To protect them is not selfishness, it is wisdom. Just as a seed must remain hidden in the soil before it can grow, some truths must remain hidden within us, waiting for the right season to emerge. In this sense, keeping a sacred trust with yourself is an act of devotion to your own soul. The difficulty of the sacred trust lies in its tension. The human instinct longs for release, for confession, for the relief that comes with unburdening. And yet the sacred trust often forbids this. It requires silence when you want to speak, restraint when you want to share, patience when you want to be understood. It asks you to carry something without recognition, to protect something without reward. And while this feels unfair, it is also the measure of strength. For true strength is not in domination, but in guardianship. There are those who treat trust lightly, who expose the private truths of others carelessly, believing that words lose their power once spoken. But the sacred trust is not about the content of the secret. It is about the bond it represents. To break that bond is to wound the invisible web that holds relationships together. The betrayal lingers not because of what was revealed, but because the act itself shattered the sanctuary where vulnerability was supposed to be safe. Once broken, this trust is nearly impossible to rebuild, for the soul remembers its betrayal long after the mind forgives. The sacred trust also carries a paradox. To keep it requires silence, but silence is often misunderstood. Others may question why you do not speak, why you seem guarded, why you withhold. They may pressure you to reveal what you know, to break the seal of confidentiality, and yet your loyalty must remain to the trust, not to the demands of the crowd. The test of a sacred trust is whether you can remain faithful even when silence costs you explanation, when it isolates you, when it makes you appear distant or uncooperative. In this sense, keeping trust is an act of courage. And beneath it all, the sacred trust is a mirror of the greater mystery of existence. Life itself is a trust given to us without explanation, a secret breathed into us that we carry without knowing its full meaning. The soul is entrusted to the body, the breath entrusted to the lungs, the heart entrusted to time. None of these belong to us entirely, yet we carry them as though they do. And in this mystery, we learn that trust is not merely a moral duty. It is the very structure of being. To live is to hold what is sacred, to guard what is fragile, to honor what is entrusted. Even when no one else can see it, everywhere you look, the world wears a mask. It is a mask of order, of certainty, of civility. It is the mask that tells us everything is fine, that chaos is under control, That meaning is already written and waiting for us to follow. Yet beneath this polished surface lies another reality, a raw and untamed truth that most are unwilling to face. The mask of the world is not worn out of malice, but out of necessity, for if humanity were to glimpse its own nakedness too clearly, the weight of that recognition might unravel the very fabric of society. From the moment we are born, we are handed our first mask. It is the mask of expectation, crafted by family, culture, and tradition. We learn to smile when we do not feel joy, to nod when we do not agree, to conform when our spirit longs for freedom. These masks multiply as we grow. The student's mask, the professional's mask, the parent's mask, the friend's mask. Each is worn to meet the demands of a particular stage or role, and each one hides the turbulence beneath. The mask of the world teaches us early on that survival often depends not on authenticity, but on adaptation. But the mask is not limited to individuals. Entire societies construct collective masks to shield themselves from deeper truths. Nations wear masks of pride and progress, even as inequality festers beneath. Religions wear masks of certainty, even as doubt gnaws silently at their foundations. Communities wear masks of unity, even as divisions simmer just below the surface. The world demands appearances, and so appearances become reality, while the truth remains hidden, whispered only in private corners or buried in silence. The mask of the world is persuasive because it is comforting. It tells us that roles are fixed, that identities are stable, that meaning is provided. Without it, we would be confronted with the terrifying fact that everything is uncertain, that our lives are fragile, that beneath the structures we build lies the abyss. The mask is a story we agree to tell each other so that life feels livable. It is a performance staged endlessly, with everyone both actor and audience, both deceiver and deceived. Yet, though the mask protects, it also imprisons. When the world insists on masks, the soul learns to hide. What is authentic, wild, and untamed is forced into shadow. A person may spend decades living as the mask dictates, only to one day realize they no longer know where the mask ends and the self begins. This confusion is the quiet crisis of modern life. People wear masks so convincingly that even in solitude they forget to remove them. The face beneath becomes foreign, neglected, almost forgotten. The mask of the world thrives on fear. Fear of exposure, fear of rejection, fear of chaos. To remove it is to risk being seen in ways that others might not accept. It is to invite criticism, misunderstanding, even exile. For this reason, most never dare to peel it away. They settle for safety over truth, for illusion over revelation. They convince themselves that the mask is enough, that the image they project is the self they are meant to live. And yet, in the quiet hours of the night, the soul remembers. It whispers of the freedom it once knew, the authenticity it still craves, the rawness that no mask can permanently conceal. The mask of the world also serves as a mirror. What we see in others is rarely their reality, but the curated image they wish to present. And we respond with our own performance, building layers of interaction where authenticity is scarce. Conversations become exchanges of masks. Relationships become dances of appearances, and society becomes a stage where truth is hidden behind costume and script. Rare are the moments when two people meet without disguise. Rare are the glances that pierce through the facade. Rare is the vulnerability that dares to exist outside of performance. Still, the mask is not entirely false. It is not simply a lie, but a tool. It allows society to function. It gives structure to chaos. It shields the fragile from being overwhelmed. The danger lies not in its existence, but in our forgetting that it is a mask at all. When we begin to mistake the mask for reality, we lose sight of what lives beneath. We begin to believe that appearances are truth, that roles are identities, that performance is life itself. And in this forgetting, we surrender the possibility of ever knowing ourselves or others in their naked essence. The mask of the world cannot be entirely removed, but it can be seen for what it is. To see it clearly is to understand the game being played. It is to walk among performances without being consumed by them. It is to wear the mask when necessary, but not confuse it with the soul beneath. The task is not to destroy the mask, for without it society might collapse, but to carry it lightly, to remember its purpose, and to protect the spark of authenticity that lives behind it. The mask of the world is both a shield and a prison, both a lie and a necessity, both a burden and a protection. It allows the play of life to unfold while concealing the chaos beneath. But it is always only a mask, never the truth itself. And those who dare to look beyond it, even for a moment, discover a reality far more raw, far more dangerous, and far more alive than the world dares to show. There are truths we hold that no one else will ever know. They move silently through our lives, shaping our choices, coloring our thoughts, whispering in the quiet chambers of our hearts. These truths are not written in journals, not spoken in confessions, not even shared with the ones closest to us. They are guarded in silence, carried with a weight that grows heavier with time, and when our final breath comes, they descend into the earth with us. The grave becomes the last and ultimate keeper, holding what no one else was ever meant to carry. The grave has always been the symbol of finality, the end of stories, the closing of all accounts. But beyond its role as the resting place of the body, it serves as the guardian of the unspoken. Every grave is filled not only with bones and dust, but with memories, secrets, desires, and regrets that were never voiced. Walk through any cemetery and imagine the countless untold stories lying beneath the ground. Each stone marks not just a life lived, but a silence preserved. The earth itself becomes the custodian of human mystery, swallowing what could not be revealed in the light of day. There are many reasons why certain truths are carried to the grave. Some are born of shame, too heavy to be spoken aloud for fear of judgment. Others are born of protection, truths withheld to spare loved ones from pain they were never meant to bear. And some are simply too sacred, too luminous, too incomprehensible for the world to understand. These truths cannot be entrusted to anyone but time itself, and so they are carried to the end, locked away in silence until the grave accepts them. The idea of the grave as the final keeper reveals a paradox about human existence. On the one hand, we long to be known, to be understood, to have our innermost selves witnessed and acknowledged. Yet on the other hand, we carry pieces of ourselves that we know must remain hidden. To reveal them would diminish them, distort them, or destroy the delicate balance of relationships and identities we construct. And so we choose silence, not because we do not wish to be known, but because the cost of disclosure would be too great. The grave becomes the only confidant capable of keeping such truths intact. This final guardianship gives secrets a strange kind of immortality. What is buried within us and never spoken does not fade. It becomes fused with our very being. It shapes our destiny. It informs our choices. It creates the invisible architecture of our lives. Even if no one else ever knows, the secret becomes part of the legacy we leave behind. The grave does not erase it, it preserves it, holding it in stillness for eternity. In this way, the silence we keep becomes as enduring as any monument, though unseen by the living. The grave, as keeper, also reminds us of the limits of human intimacy. No matter how deeply we love, no matter how much we share, there are always parts of us that remain untouchable. We can reveal ourselves in fragments, in gestures, in words, but the full weight of our inner world can never be completely handed over to another. Something always remains behind, locked away, waiting for the grave. To accept this is not despair, but recognition of the mystery of human existence. Every life contains depths that no other soul can fully reach. There is also power in withholding. Not every truth is meant for exposure. Some truths retain their force precisely because they are never spoken. Once revealed, they might be dismissed, diluted, or misunderstood. But kept in silence, they remain whole, untouched, inviolable. The grave becomes not just the end, but the protector of these untouched truths. In entrusting them to death rather than to others, we preserve their purity, ensuring that they are never corrupted by misinterpretation or triviality. In this light, the grave is not merely an end, but a sacred vault. It accepts what no one else can hold, without judgment, without distortion, without betrayal. It does not gossip, it does not misremember, it does not diminish. It receives and keeps silently, eternally. There is comfort in this, knowing that what could not be carried in life will finally rest without burden in death. The grave holds what we could not say, what we could not reveal, what we could not trust to any other living soul. The awareness of the grave as final keeper also changes the way we live. It forces us to ask, which truths must I protect until the end, and which must I release before it is too late? It teaches us that not every silence is weakness, but that silence itself has dignity, weight, and purpose. To choose what to take to the grave is to choose what to keep sacred, what to preserve beyond time, what to entrust only to the soil and the silence of eternity. The grave, in its stillness, does not betray. It holds the final silence, the unspoken truths, the mysteries that lived within us. It is the last confidant, the final witness, the eternal guardian of all that was carried too deep to be shared